today's workshop. I am really pleased to see that a lot of people is joining to the show. And Marjana, what a day today, right? We have a
Yes.
great guest, Tony Perzow, and we are very excited.
Now we can show our hands
All
and
right.
be happy.
All right.
Yes, great.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I'm sorry. I'm in a, you know what? I'm going to put my background on. I'm in a hotel right now.
Don't worry. I suggest to ask for a liter of coffee so you can be all day.
How about I do that? So you guys don't get distracted with people in the mirror. I'm teaching a workshop all day today. It starts a half hour after this. So anyway, it's good to be here. And so, yeah, I was excited to talk about this subject of dark psychology because I've never been asked to speak about dark psychology before. First time, and I've been doing this a long time.
I must interrupt you.
Yeah.
Because we should first introduce you. You are such a special guest to us, and I think you deserve a little bit introduction. So, Misael, please, can you say a few words?
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt Tony, and but thank you, Marjana. And yeah, of course, Tony is a great person who is a renewed negotiation expert, a speaker, and master of dark psychology tactics. And Tony has spent years uncovering secrets of manipulation, persuasion, and psychology welfare in high-stake negotiations. So his dynamic approach reveals how to control perception, influence emotions, and bend reality and advance in advantages. So Tony has trained more than 25,000 people in negotiations, and he's even involved in more than $1 billion in sales revenue negotiations for very high stakes negotiations, and he's really well known for how to manage those dark psychology situations, right? Where we maybe most of us have been into. So, Tony, welcome to the show. This is Negotiation for Project Managers. We have people all over the world and people from different countries. And well, we are eager to learn and hear from you. So welcome to the show, Tony.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So as I was saying, yeah, dark psychology, I've never been asked to speak about dark psychology. And, and I've trained all the biggest companies in the world. I've trained companies like Apple, Red Bull, Samsung, Intel, Microsoft, Boeing.
Marjana, if you would mind, I think Tony is muted.
Oh, this is not a good thing.
Okay. All right. Am I unmuted now?
That's great.
Yeah.
We can hear you. Great.
Okay, good.
Thank
so I've never been asked to speak about dark psychology, but I've realized in preparing for this talk with all of you that well, everything I teach is pretty much dark psychology. But I think in the corporate world, in the world we live in, people just call it negotiation. But I think there's darkness in it. And I think it's important to understand the darkness of it and not identify with the darkness in it, be able to see it as darkness, but not get attached to it or not be in the darkness. Okay. So I just want to start things off. Dark psychology, it's a dark subject, right? But I want to start things off with a little light, okay? So I'm going to share my PowerPoint here. And let me share my PowerPoint. And I want to show you just a quick little video, okay? A quick little video of my twin brother. I have a twin brother. And my twin brother is terrible at negotiation, the worst. And I was able to get some footage from him a few years ago negotiating a salary okay? And I have video footage of him negotiating a salary. So I want to show you what my idiot twin brother does when he negotiates a salary, okay?
I will need to be paid $85,000 a year. 75? 75? Am I hearing you correctly? How do I say this in the most respectful way possible? I will walk out of this room right now if you don't give me $85,000 a year. Yeah, no, I will. I will walk because I respect myself more than that. Yes, fine. Give me the extra week vacation. I'll take it. You're starting to get me a little... Put your hand. Put your hand. Yes, shake my hand. $85,000 a year. That's it. There's no negotiation.
Mr. Perzow, we're ready for you.
Okay, you got
it. Tony, we're prepared to offer you $67,000.
I'll take it.
I'm going to get you a parking pass.
Already?
Okay.
I don't see the video.
You don't only see the video. Okay, well, that's okay. I hope some of you did see it.
Yes.
Yes, you did. Okay, so it's funny, right? But we laugh because there's truth to that video. And the truth is not very funny. The truth is my idiot twin brother, whose also name was Tony, by the way. What the hell was my parents thinking? But my idiot twin brother was scared. The reason why he accepted $67,000, even though he wanted $85,000, the reason why he accepted it, because he got scared. And I want you to remember this word, fear, okay? Because I'm going to be coming back to this word over and over and over again in this presentation. But before I get into the fear, let's just take a moment right now to understand the science of decision-making, okay? Why we make the decisions we make, all right? So I'm going to bring up a little case study from the Netherlands a few years ago. And the Dutch train, you know, everyone travels by train in Europe, of course, right? And so the Dutch government was getting a lot of complaints saying, hey, the train, when I'm on the train, it's too noisy. There's no silence. And there was a demand for a section of the train to be silent only. No one can talk. So people can work, they can sleep, okay? So the government says that's a great idea. How are we going to implement it? How are we going to get people to be silent on this one section of the train? And they did what any of us would do. They put up signs, right? They put up a bunch of signs. They put up signs that, no cell phone. They put up shh signs, all types of signs. And do you think those signs worked? No, they didn't work. People kept on making noise in this train. So what did they do? Well, they did what any of us would do. They put up bigger signs. They put signs on all the seats to shh, be quiet. They hired people to go onto the train to actually go shh. Didn't work. Huh. So then they said, okay, maybe we need some help here. And they hired a consulting firm. And they spent millions of dollars to try to figure out how to get people to basically shut up on the train. And this consulting firm figured it out. And what they realized was that if they made the train look like a library, people stopped talking. Ah, interesting, huh? Very interesting. So here's the thing. People don't know what influences their behaviors and decisions. We think we know, but really we don't know. And this man right here, Dr. Kahneman, is one of our greatest minds to ever live. And he wrote the book, Thinking Fast and Slow. And his research, he was a psychologist, research psychologist, and his research on why humans make the decisions they do had such an impact that he won the Nobel Prize in economics, even though he was a psychologist, had such an impact on the economy that they gave him the Nobel Prize in economics, okay? Even though he was not an economist in any way. And Kahneman's research, he was able to identify that human beings, and I'm going to do this very short, but human beings, we have two different minds. Think of it, we have two different computers inside our head. We have one computer, which he called System 1, and then we have another computer inside our head that he called System 2. And System 1, our System 1 computer, is a very fast computer. So if I were to say to all of you right now, what's 1 plus 1? All of you, right away, 2. You just got the answer. It just popped into your head, right? Well, that was your System 1 computer working. But if I were to say, what's 6,000 divided by 342 times 875? None of you got the answer, unless you're like a brilliant genius. But your System 1 then says, I can't do that. And then your System 2, which is a very slow computer, then you sit down, you take out a pen, you take out a calculator, you figure it out. That's your System 2, which is a very slow computer, okay? Our System 1 computer, which is very fast, is unconscious. It's hidden. We don't understand why we're making the decisions we're making in System 1. It just happens. Like, none of you had to figure out what 1 plus 1 is. You didn't have to analyze that, right? It just came out of nowhere. But it doesn't come out of nowhere. It just comes out of your unconscious mind. System 2 is conscious. We know exactly why we're doing it. We have about, I think, 35,000 conscious thoughts a day. I got to go to the bathroom. I got to eat. I got to do this. I got to walk there. Got to make to-do lists, right? System 1 is automatic. So it happens automatically. These decisions that we make, they happen. It's almost like shortcuts. We don't know why we're making them. They just happen automatically. Just like that 1 plus 1, it was an automatic answer you got. System 2 is effortful. So we got to sit down, we got to decipher, we got to contrast, compare, so it takes effort. System 1, everyday decisions. So we get up in the morning, we go to sleep at night. Everything that happens in between, just to stay alive in the day and like not fall off a cliff or get killed, but like not have to think about every step we're taking. It's System 1. It gets us through our day without having on autopilot, like we all wake up on the same side of the bed every day. We get out of bed, we have the same routine, we brush our teeth with the same hand. It's like all these things are on autopilot. We don't even realize that we're making all these decisions because our System 1 takes care of all that. So we can focus on other things. And here's the big thing that Kahneman figured out. Our System 1, oh, by the way, System 2 is more complex decisions. You're buying a house, a major purchase. We got to really analyze, okay? System 1 is error prone. So our System 1 brain, which is very fast, makes a lot of mistakes. Have you ever heard the expression, if you ever fall in love at first sight, run as fast in the opposite direction as you possibly can, right? Yeah, that's usually System 1 who's falling in love right away, right? And that's usually an unconscious decision, which is usually not a good decision. And usually those decisions of falling in love at first sight there's a lot of mistakes in that, right? So error prone. System 2 is reliable. When we make decisions with our System 2, we are very reliable, okay? It's like an accountant. We triple check, we double check. So Kahneman figured out that around the year 2000, that this is interesting, 90% of our decisions every day are being made by System 1, by our fast computer that makes a lot of mistakes. Today, researchers are telling us that number now is at 95%. 95% of our decisions are being made by our System 1. And at one point in the future, I don't know how long it's going to take, but one day we will be at 100% of our decisions being made by System 1. Why do you think that is? Why is this number going up? I'm sure back in the 1940s, the 1950s, this number was a lot less than 90%. The reason why it's happening is because as the world is getting too fast for us. There's too much information, too much technology, too many decisions. Our System 2 is not designed for a world that's moving this fast. Our System 2 has become too slow. It's too slow of a computer. So we need it less. So we're relying on our fast computer more and more and more. That makes a lot of mistakes, by the way, okay? So Dr. Kahneman said that, hey, it's your System 1 that runs the show, okay? If you want to get someone to say yes to you in a negotiation, you must speak to their System 1, not their System 2. But a lot of us make the mistake of speaking to people system 2 when we want to persuade and influence them. We use reason and logic and facts and numbers. But our system 1, but that doesn't persuade people. Just look at our world today. Look at all the craziness in our world today. There's no reason in the world, you know? There's no logic. What we see in countries all over the world right now, in our country as well, there's craziness everywhere. Why? It's because we're all running around making decisions by a brain, a system 1, that makes a lot of mistakes. Okay? So here's the thing. System 1 speaks a different language. If you want to learn to persuade and influence somebody, you've got to learn a whole new language. And one of the best language teachers in this area is Dr. Cialdini, and he wrote the book Influence. Okay, Dr. Cialdini is a professor. He's a New York Times bestselling author. He spent his life researching persuasion and influence, and he basically was able to figure out, he didn't invent, but he was able to figure out the 7 universal principles of persuasion. Okay, and just think of these 7 principles as like the alphabet of this language of system 1. And again, he didn't invent these. These are timeless. They've been around. They were around thousands of years ago, these principles. They worked. And in 1,000 years from now, these principles will work. And they're also universal. Whether you are in Canada, Bangladesh, Saskatchewan, Korea, these principles work. Okay. So this right here is the foundation, really, of negotiation. Because in a negotiation, we're trying to get yeses. We're trying to get people to say yes. And this is the foundation of getting people to say yes. So this is the language we need to learn, okay? And reciprocity. So number 1, which is reciprocity, and these are basically, this is not rocket science, everybody. System 1 is not a rocket science language. It's human wiring. It's human psychology. So reciprocity, number 1, you're more likely to say yes to me if I give you something first. You see, it's not rocket science. If I give you a gift, you're more likely to say yes to me. Okay? Why? Because our brains are wired that way. If you do somebody a favor, if you give something to somebody, every one of us has the wiring to be like, oh no, or oh yes, I owe them one, right? If you scratch my back, I'm going to feel like I have to then scratch your back. In fact, I know people who say, don't give me anything because I don't want to feel like I owe you. They don't want the burden of feeling like they owe you, right? So the way reciprocity shows up in our negotiations is it's a tactic. Okay, it's a tactic. So one of the most important negotiation tactics there are that everybody should know is trading, right? So always asking for something in return. Most of us, I'll just use price negotiations because we can all relate to price negotiations. But most of us, when we negotiate, we give things away for free. Fine, I'll give you a 5% discount. I'll give you a 5% discount. And we don't ask for anything in return, right? That's a big mistake. We always want to ask the other party for something in return. Always, always, always. So all of you watching, please go out there and don't give anything away for free. Always ask for things in return. Why? Because of reciprocity. As soon as you give somebody, let's say, a 5% discount, if you ask for something in return immediately after, that principle of reciprocity kicks in. They are more likely to then give you something in return because they feel like they owe you one. So the best time to get something from someone is right after you've given them something. Okay. Number 2, liking. We say yes to people who we like, right? We say yes, more specifically, we say yes to people who are similar to us and people who praise us. Very simple. So one of the age-old negotiation tactics is called the squeeze, which is very simple, which is like, hey, I like you. I want to do business with you. You're fantastic. Your company's fantastic. We want to do business with you, but you've got to do something about that price. That's the tactic right there. And it's one of the most powerful buyer tactics there are. By the way, all of you are buyers and sellers. I know you're project managers, but in every negotiation, you're always buying and selling. Always. If you're negotiating with your wife or husband where to go on vacation, you might sell, let's go to Barbados, honey, sweetheart. You're selling Barbados. And they might say, no, I don't want to go to Barbados. I want to go to Greece. They're not buying Barbados, and now they're going to try to sell you Greece. So we're always buying and selling. So all of you are salespeople and buyers as well. Okay. So that liking, so that, hey, I like you, I want to do business, you're fantastic, is using that principle of liking. But then we say, hey, but you got to give me something. You got to give me a reduction in price. It's a powerful tactic, and a lot of people can't say no to that. Why? Here it is. They're scared. That fear word again. Even with number one, reciprocity. I give you something, but if I give you something, you're scared not to give me something back. Again, it's fear driving that decision to give me something back after I've given you something. Number three is unity. Similar to liking. You're more likely to say yes to me if you feel like we are part of the same team. We're part of the same family. We're from the same country. We're from the same city. We belong to the same club. We went to the same college. We're part of the same organization. If you can make the other party feel like they're your teammate, they are more likely to say yes to you. So the way this happens, the way this shows up in negotiation is it's a tactic called the bogey, which is similar to liking. Hey, I like you. I want to do business with you. So we bring in the principle of liking. Hey, I like you. I want to do business with you. But all the money I have in my budget is $100,000. That's all the money I have. I'm sorry, I would give you more. I'd give you more than $100,000, but that's all the money I have in the budget. Or that's all the money the bank will lend me, is that. It's a powerful tactic. Why? Because all of a sudden, the restrictive force, the enemy, becomes the budget. The enemy becomes the bank. And me and you are now teammates. We are going to work together to overcome that enemy of the budget and the bank. Okay? So again, fear is involved as well, right? Fear is involved as well. We become fearful of the restrictive force, of the budget, of the bank. Number four is social proof. So that is, hey, you're more likely to say yes to me if other people are saying yes to me, right? If your brother's saying yes to me, you're more likely to say yes to me. So the way this shows up in negotiation as a tactic is competition. Hey, your competition is saying yes to me. That's what it is. Your competition is saying yes to me. Other people you know are saying yes to me, so you should say yes to me as well. It's being done a million times a day. Everybody's using this tactic of competition, which is social proof. But again, there's a fear, the fear of missing out. Oh, I'm scared not to use you. If others are using you, I'm fearful not to use you. Again, fear is coming into play in all of these tactics. Number six is consistency, which is you're more likely to say yes to me if you said yes to me before. So like, for example, like I love to use, but I teach asking, you owe me one. You owe me one, right? So like, hey, I'll give you a 5% discount, but you owe me one. And then you get them to say, yes, I owe you one. So when they have verbalized, yes, I owe you one, that is consistency. Now you can go back in the future and say, hey, remember when you said you owed me one? Yes. Well, I want that favor now. And again, this is all tapping into human wiring. Humans want people to think we are trustworthy. We want people to think we're trustworthy. We want people to think we're ethical. We want people to think we have integrity. Even if we don't have integrity, we at least want people to think that we do. So when we say something, we feel bad. We get scared of not following through on things that we've said. Again, fear is coming into play. I think I missed authority. Number 5, authority, is we are more likely to say yes to somebody who's an expert, who we think is smarter than us. We're more likely to say yes to them. So we see this all the time in negotiations. People bring in experts. Why? Because you can't argue with an expert. They know more than you. If the expert says this, then it must be that. Again, it's fear. Oh, I'm scared. They know more than me. I'm lower than them. I'm scared of them. And then number 7, this really is, I think, the whole foundation of negotiation, which is scarcity, the most powerful tactic there is, which is, hey, you're more likely to say yes to me if this is your last chance to say yes to me ever again. I mean, it basically is fear, right? We are more motivated by loss. We're more motivated by loss than we are by gain. We are more motivated to take our painkillers than we are to take our vitamins. Human wiring. Humans have a scarcity mindset. We have a fearful mindset. It runs the world. This fearful mindset is running the world. Okay? So when we use this tactic, what we're doing is we're merely tapping into how scared people are. So when I use a deadline, hey, I need your best price by 4 p.m. Friday, I am trying to scare them. When I say all I have is one left, it's the last one for sale, don't miss out, that I'm trying to scare you. Okay? We see this all over the place. But it's all fear. It's all fear. So I'm just doing a time check here. Listen, so this part right here is very important. So I'm going to bore you now with a little bit of Latin, but the word negotiation comes from the Latin word negotium. Okay, negotium. And what does negotium mean? Well, neg means no. And otium means leisure, or in other words, fun. So negotiation comes from a word that means no leisure or no fun. That's it. So what makes a negotiation no fun? Well, what makes it no fun, so if a leisurely conversation, so if I'm having a leisurely conversation with you, my friend, about what we did last weekend, it's leisurely. But what separates that kind of conversation from a negotiation is that a negotiation, both parties are talking, they're conversing, they're communicating, but the difference is I have pressure and you have pressure. This is the foundation of negotiation right now. All negotiations involve both parties coming together who have pressure to achieve some sort of objective. Another word for that pressure is fear. So in every negotiation you're ever going to be involved in, every single one, there's always going to be pressure on the other side. All the time. But here's the big thing. Whose pressures are we almost exclusively focused on when we negotiate? Our own. 99% of us go into negotiations fixated and obsessing on our own problems, on our own fears, on our own things that scare us, all our own pressures. What if this goes wrong? What if that goes wrong? What if I don't make this? What if I don't get that? What if I make him angry? What if he makes me angry? What if he makes him angry? We're constantly obsessing about our own problems. And that right there is what stops us from being effective negotiators. So what skilled negotiators do, that's differently, is they still have fear. We're human beings. They're still scared. But what they do is they say, hey, I know I have pressure. I know I'm scared, but I'm going to push that aside. And my job is to try to identify the fears and the pressures on the other party. That's what gives you leverage. If you can identify what makes them scared, that's when you get power and control. When you understand what makes people scared, you get power and control, leverage. Okay? And then what do you do with that power? What do you do with that control? You try to reduce their fear. try to make them less scared, because if you can make them feel more comfortable and less scared, you're more likely to get a yes. Or, and this is a little bit dark, or you try to make them more scared. Try to make them more scared, you're more likely to get a yes as well. And I'm sorry to say, this is the foundation of the negotiation we see in the world today. It's people trying to make each other scared. So I'm going to lighten things up soon. There's hope. All right, I'm going to come to the hope shortly. Let me do a time check here. Okay. So I already mentioned that all of you are salespeople. Okay, so I want you to remember that from this day on. Even though you might not have a sales in your title, you're always selling. We need to be salespeople to move through life, because we're selling ourselves, we're selling our point of views, we're selling our desires. We're always buying and selling. Okay. And one of my favorite sales quotes is this: if you don't feel a little uncomfortable about your fee, you're not charging enough. So forget about fee. Whatever you desire in life, whatever you're trying to achieve, whether in your negotiations or in life in general, if that thing you're trying to achieve doesn't make you feel uncomfortable, scared, doesn't make you feel scared, it means you're not asking enough. So fear also comes into play when trying to get our value in the world, because most of us don't try to get our value. Most of us don't think very highly of ourselves. We don't think we're worthy. We don't think we're enough. So we don't ask for enough. So this right here is also the foundation of negotiation, to understand that, hey, what we desire, what we're trying to get, needs to make us feel uncomfortable. So if you're like, whatever you're trying to achieve, whatever success you're trying to get in life, if you keep on falling short, if you're not achieving the success that you desire, most of the time it has to do with you not aiming high enough. It means you're playing it safe. You're playing it scared. You're fearful. And if you're fearful, if you're playing it safe, that is success kryptonite. Okay? So I did a little experiment a few years ago with my nephew, Harrison. He just started college. It was a one-person experiment, so it wasn't a valid experiment, but he was starting college. He was taking an economics class. And I did a little experiment. I asked him 3 questions. I said, Harrison, what grade do you hope to get in this economics class? Like, what grade do you wish for, that you desire? And he says, Tony, I desire an A. Naturally, he would say that, an A. Great job, Harrison. And then I said, what if things go really bad this semester? And what if things go really bad? And like, I don't know, you don't like your professor or you get sick. What do you think the worst possible grade might be that you get in this class? And he says, Tony, probably a C. All right, good. And then I asked him the 3rd question. The most important question there is, not only in negotiation, but really maybe in our lives. I said, Harrison, what grade do you expect to get? Expect. And he said, I expect to get a B. And what grade do you think he wound up getting at the end of the semester? Got a B. Why? Because we generally get what we expect. We get what we expect in negotiation. We get what we expect in life. If we expect poverty, we get poverty. If we expect wealth, we get it. We expect love, we get love. We expect hate, we get hate. We're always creating in our life at the level of our thoughts, at the level of our expectations. So here's where things get also a little dark in negotiation, because here I am telling you, hey, you got to feel uncomfortable with the things you desire because you're not aiming high enough. Start aiming higher. Ask for more. Ask for more. Expect more, and you'll get more. So here I am expecting more, telling you to expect more. But then the person you're negotiating with, well, they might be expecting more as well. And that's a problem, because when we negotiate, yes, we want to expect more, so we get more, but we don't want anybody else expecting more. We don't want them getting more. That scares us. So what do we do? We try to get them to expect less. We don't want the party we're negotiating with ever thinking, I'm going to get a great deal today. We want to be saying that. I want to say I want to get a great deal, but if I'm negotiating with you, I don't want you saying that. because that threatens me. Again, it's scarcity. Really, at the end of the day, there's enough for everybody. There's enough abundance and resources for everybody. But we get scared that, hey, if you get some, I won't get any. And I think that's one of the biggest problems in the world we see today. There's no sharing. So that's where all these crazy negotiation tactics come in. We use tactics to get people to expect less. We use tactics to scare people. I want to show you a little video I wrote this video based on my experiences working with companies. It's comical, so it'll add some lightness to the subject right now. But I want to show you a video about all the crazy tactics that we use in negotiations. Watch this.
I'm feeling pretty good. It's my first time meeting this buyer. He works for a smaller construction company, but I hear they buy decent volume. So I'm gonna go in there and do my thing. I'm gonna kill it. I got my secret weapon with me, so.
2007, 2008, you know, when the economy went south, really affected us, and my company was forced to make some tough decisions. We had to reduce costs or sink. But rather than sink, my company invested in heavy negotiation training for us buyers, and it worked really well. I mean, some of these negotiation tricks, I guess you'd call them, they're actually very simple, but these sellers fall for them over and over again. See how I've removed everything from my office? I removed everything, including the pictures of my wife and kids. Why? Stops my vendors from using that Dale Carnegie.
They're all my competition. Might need to sharpen my pencil a little.
Tom, your 130 is here. Pete Price from Cost Plus.
Yeah, let him sweat it out there a little longer with his competition. Thanks, Sally. This catalog belongs to Pete Price's biggest competitor. That should be a good place to plant it. Sally, let him in.
That did not go so well.
That went fantastic.
I went into his office.
He looked around and couldn't find anything to make conversation about.
Not even a picture of his wife and kids. This was useless.
I got right down to talking about business. Pete, what's our FOB price on the
𝗧cie NV90 AG? It's a 3.5-inch coil framing nail gun. I quoted him $100. And then...
What? Are you kidding me? $100? You see these? I buy these by the box load from my local pharmacy. $3 a pair. Every time a vendor comes in my office and quotes me a price, I give them my best Tony Montana. You should see them drop their pants after that.
Tom, your 230 is here.
Send him in.
I'm feeling pretty...
So it might be funny, right? It might be funny, but the truth is this is happening. These are all real experiences. So all these tactics in there are real tactics that are happening every day. And you can see it's all fear-based. Let's put our vendor in an office with his competitors so he gets scared. Let's put the competitor's book in front of him that says looking good, so he's scared. Let me get crazy at his price, so he's scared. So we call all these tactics garbage on the lawn. And this is what we do. We throw garbage on people's lawn to lower their expectations. We throw garbage on people's lawn to scare them. We throw garbage on people's lawn so they're not thinking they're going to do well in the negotiation. Why? Because if they don't think that they're going to do well, if they expect not doing well, then they won't do well. And we will. Okay. So, some of you might be thinking, well, what about win-win? What about win-win? And I don't have time to get into win-win, but really, at the end of the day, win-win is, it's very difficult, okay? It's very difficult, and we don't see it very often, and it takes a lot of time. It takes trust. It takes transparency, okay? And there's not a lot of that out there, okay? So win-win is unusual. It doesn't happen most of the time. And even in win-win, even in a win-win negotiation, there's still an aspect of that win-win where we're protecting our own interests. So there's still that competitive aspect where all these things come into play, okay? So, hey, I know this all might sound heavy, but I think it's important to look at negotiation as a game. You have to, because if you take it personally, if you take this process personally, you're going to get very disheartened. It's a tough picture to look at. It's hard. And you got to see it as a game, because really it is a game. It's like a game of cards or a game of poker. We go into negotiations. We don't want people to see our cards. We want them to see some cards, but not all the cards. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors. Sometimes there's not a lot of truth being told. All that stuff is dark. It's dark. So it helps me, and this is what I teach, look at this process as a game. And find your light, find what makes you happy and joyful, and trust the world outside of negotiation, because we're not there yet in the world where negotiation can become a source of love, which in a perfect world, it would be. Negotiation, both sides would be coming to it from a place of love. But what's happening, where we are in a world today and where we've been in the past, and maybe in 1,000 years we'll be somewhere different, who knows? Maybe AI will change this, who knows? But we're at a place now where both sides come together scared. And that's what we're seeing in the corporate world. That's what we're seeing in the political world. Fear. Okay. So I'm gonna end on this before I take some questions. But here's the thing. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And like I don't get hired to teach. I don't get hired to teach love, but I really do think that love is the answer to all of this. And when you start approaching your negotiations from a place of love, which is like, what would love do in this situation? What would love do in this negotiation? I think when you start approaching negotiations from that point of view, I personally think only good things happen, even if it doesn't seem like good things are happening. But I think, but of course, the corporate world is not ready for that. So I want to bring it back regarding this love, right? I want to bring this back to these 7 principles of persuasion. Hold on. Hold on. So these 7 principles of persuasion right here. The way I spoke about them before, was really from a fear place, right? But you can also, there's a higher level to all these principles. There's a much higher level. They're not fear-based. We human beings make these fear-based. But if you think of it, reciprocity, it's all about giving. Give, generosity, forgiveness, being giving to others without expecting anything in return. So we can all practice these things in a different way. Liking is all about praise, right? Praising others to get something. But what if we just praise life? Praise life. Be grateful for this life that we have, for the people that are in it. That's what this principle means from a higher level. Unity. It's all about, hey, not trying to say, hey, we're part of the same team so I can get something, but it's all about community, finding community around you, finding family, finding people who you can bring into your life that make you a better person. Number 4, social proof. We do things, we copy other people. That's what social proof is. We make our decisions based on what other people are doing. But again, hey, if we copy other people, if we're making decisions based on what others are doing, then it would behoove us to bring the right people into our life. A lot of us spend a lot of our time dealing with people, family members, friends, colleagues, bosses. We deal with people who don't treat us well. They make us feel small. But if you start surrounding yourself with people who expand you, who lift you up, life changes. Number 5, authority. Being an expert. Really, yes, I can go in there and say, I'm an engineer and, and like get you to say yes to me because of my expertise. But I think authority means like being an authority figure on us, being self-aware, understanding ourselves. If you can become an authority on who we are, who we really are, behind the fear, the world opens up. Number 6, consistency is all about being honest. Really, right? I mean, in the manipulative way, in the dark way, it's about getting people to give you small yeses so you can get a bigger yes later. But really, it's just about being consistent, having integrity, being truthful, being honest. Authenticity. That's a big word that's getting thrown around, but that's what it is. It's authenticity. And number 7, scarcity, is understanding for me. So is understanding that, hey, we don't need to live in that world. We don't need to live in a world that is operating from a scarcity mindset. We don't need to live in a world that is scared. Yes, we need to play the game of fear, but we don't need to identify it. We can separate from it. And hey, there's always a second choice. We can always choose love. There's always love and fear in every decision we make. We choose fear or we choose love. And I have found in my own life, I teach this stuff. I teach this darkness. I'm in this darkness, but I'm not of the darkness. I'm in it, but I'm not of it. And the way I keep myself healthy and sane is choosing love. So that's it for my presentation, guys, today. I left about 10 minutes for anybody who has any questions. I'm open. What would you like to ask?
Thanks, Sonny. Thank you. I think it's been a really great session today. I have some comments in the chat, but I see that Kevin is raising his hand. So I would like Kevin to unmute himself and then speak about what's your question, Kevin?
Yes, of course. Thank you. Thank you for the story, of course. And I have actually a question. Like, what if you would encounter like the bald guy with the glasses throwing around? What would you do to protect yourself, or what is your advice in a situation like that?
Yeah, I think it's really about understanding this dark psychology, these tactics, not necessarily for you to go out there and use them so that you can spot them. You can see them coming a mile away. And really the biggest countermeasure, so if he's a buyer and you're the seller in negotiation, and that doesn't mean you're a salesperson. It just means in that negotiation, you're selling your point of view, your position, and you're getting someone to say yes to you. Then the important thing is to say no, learning how to say no, not falling for those tactics, and having a firm position. So this is my position, and sticking to it, and being able to say no to all those crazy tactics, and not believing them, not falling for them, and also understand even that bald guy is scared as shit, right? Very scared, and try to figure out what's making him scared. What are his pressures? Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah. Robinson.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you. When I heard for the first time about dark psychology, I had the first mental impression that you were supposed to be going to tell us some tricks and mean ways to get away with what we want.
Yes.
But just to recap, the human brain, computer one, it's for what I heard from you, it's kind of it has a kind of a reptilian behavior, right? It's kind of primal.
Yeah.
You're hungry, or you need to sleep, you need to reproduce. You know, that's okay. That's how it operates, and that's why most of animals in the animal world get hunt, or some of them, the apex predators, are not hunted except by humans, right?
Yeah.
Well, curiously, we're using mostly that behavior at more primal, right? More like most of the animal, reactive, reptilian. So on the other side, we had the other computer number two. It's more based on wisdom, on reflection, something that animals do not do, right? So
I wouldn't say it's wisdom, but yes, it's logic, which animals don't have. Yeah.
Yes, which animals don't have. And but when you analyze in time, after 20, 30, 40, 60 years of living, you get some kind of wise, because the stats show what you did right, what you did wrong, and what was almost in the middle, and you somehow get wise. You can predict from when you hear your son or your daughter that's going to do something, you say, I suggest not to do that in that way. Or if you wanted to do that, do it this way. But why that? Because you're going to fail. But how do you know? Because I have more experience than you, and somehow that's kind of wisdom, right? Okay, but if you don't like the word, okay, I'll check it out. So next thing is you characterize what is Dao psychology, right? But what I'm taking home is that you characterize it, and you say this is the radiography of what Dao psychology is. But also in the things you mentioned at last, the seven strategies are a kind of vaccine, not to be ruled by that dark psychology. Am I right, or am I?
Yeah, I'm saying that you have a choice. So you can, those 7 principles of persuasion, you can implement them and utilize them from a place of fear, which is, how do I get from you? But there's also a way to implement those from a higher level, from a place of maybe what you call wisdom or love, right? Or compassion, our better self, our higher self. So it's a choice, right? It's a choice. And if we are being forced to use them in a dark way because of the game we're playing, because the game is dark oftentimes, then it's really important to see it as a game and not identify with it, right? Being able to see it for what it is and not be, and just play the game and then go home after.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course. Yeah.
Okay. Donnie, we have some other questions in the chat. I have 𝗥𝗲𝗃. His question is, what do you think person-to-person negotiations versus telephone or Zoom negotiations?
So telephone, well, there's been studies done on this. So there was a study done at Yale not too long ago. They had thousands of people negotiate through electronically, so text message and email. They had another group negotiate through telephone, and then a third group negotiate through face-to-face. There was no Zoom in this experiment, just those 3 options. And they found that when you negotiate through electronically, through email, you give yourself a 52% chance of deadlocking, impasse, of not coming to an agreement, as opposed to 21% when done face-to-face. So I always say that pick up the phone, make a Zoom Teams meeting, see them in person. Don't negotiate through email. Don't do it. You're sabotaging yourself every time you decide to negotiate through email. And again, this word fear comes up because a lot of people negotiate through email because they're scared. They don't want to be seen. It's easier to hide behind a computer screen, right? It's easier. But also it's easier to say no to you as well. I have no problem saying no to an email than to an actual human being, right? And also email, I don't know about you, but I don't know how many times things have got lost in translation. People mean to say something and then people take it the wrong way based on the day they're having. If I'm having a horrible day, I woke up on the wrong side of the bed, I'm going to read your email through the lens of my bad day. And all of a sudden your email, which could be a very fine email, is now a bad email because of my bad day, right? And even we have people from all over the world here. You know, if you're from, you know, people express themselves, language barriers come into play, right? You might express yourself differently in another language. And when you start translating that into English, it might come across as rude, but it's maybe just the way your language, the, you know, the syntax of your language is very direct. Some languages are very direct, right? So like, I've been in countries where like, hey, come here, go do that, give me this. Like that's their language. It's very direct language. In English, we have very, hey, can you please maybe pass that? Can you maybe move? There's a lot of like, you know, nicety, being nice, right? And some languages don't have that. So pick up the phone. Face-to-face, Zoom is the best way. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Tony. I have the last one because, you know, we are almost running out of time. And I have one question from Carlos Fernandez. He's asking how to recover trust in ourselves if we lost in a previous negotiation.
How do we recover trust in sales? Say that again.
How to recover trust in ourselves?
Okay, in ourselves.
If we lost in a previous negotiation.
How do we recover trust in ourselves? How do we recover trust in ourselves if we lost in a previous negotiation?
Yeah.
How do we recover trust in ourselves if we lost in a previous negotiation? Well, yeah, I mean that's a big topic, right? It's like I don't think that's a negotiation question. That is like the type of relationship you have with yourself. Are you forgiving to yourself? Like, I mean, if you fail or you make a mistake, okay, how do you look at that failure or the mistake? Do you see it as I'm bad? I made a mistake. I'm terrible. Do you beat yourself up for it? Or are you someone who has compassion for yourself? Hey, I made a mistake, but this is how I learn. So my answer to your question would be don't ever beat yourself up. Don't ever, you know, the trust in yourself should always be there. Like that's your number one priority in life. Trusting yourself will make you a better negotiator, right? So don't focus on the negotiation. You're making negotiation an idol. You're making negotiation as dependent on how you feel about yourself. If I do well in negotiation, I'm good. If I don't do well, I'm bad. It's the other way around. I'm good, so I do well in negotiation. Even if I don't do, even if I do poorly, I'm still okay. Negotiation, it's not that important in life, right? There's other things that are more important. But I hope some of you out there who are listening, I hope my words, I know it was very dark, a lot of it, but I hope the light came through, and I hope I touched some of you out there. Okay. I hope you learned a few things.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tony. I just would like to, I want to thank you everyone who joined us on today's show. It's been really great for us to see different, how negotiations can happen from different optic angle and from the dark side, which is really great. But there is one thing I want to tell everyone that we are preparing, and this is an announcement. We are going to have a workshop negotiations where you can, where you will be able to practice in a safe environment in one-on-one negotiations. And the topic is landing your next PM job, negotiate your way to the top. So we are going to have different topics in that workshop, and then we will have one-on-one. People can negotiate in a safe environment and learn from there and have fun in negotiations. So that is pretty much for all of this event today. Marjana, do you want to say something, or anybody else have any comments on this? Questions are welcome.
Thank you. So I would first of all like to thank Tony, who took time today, and this was really insightful, and also I guess we learned a lot too. I really do think that you should come to our next event too. So stay with us, and a little bit more from Robinson now. Robinson, you are on mute.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, Tony, thank you so much for the lecture. It was very, very insightful. You gave me so many ideas, and you helped me to clarify some blank spots I had in mind. We will be very pleased to have you back in the next event or any other events. I'm sure there are plenty of questions all the audience has, but just they need to process it, and I'm sure they will put it in black and white for the next session. Thank you so much again.
Thank you. All right. So, Marjana, I think this is the end of this event. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your Saturday, and good afternoon or good evening from wherever you are in the world. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.